And good morning. It's 7:03 on this Tuesday. It's July 7th. It's time to head to Studio B for Coleman and Company.
Hello, everybody. We welcome you on a Tuesday morning. The sun is shining. That little rain last night, I don't think very much. But anyway, any is appreciated, and probably more in the forecast today. But going to be a terrific Tuesday, and we're here on the air this morning for Vanderbilt Wilson County Hospital. Tracy Pope is with us as almost always. Tracy, we appreciate you. Tracy is the Director of Community Relations for Vanderbilt Wilson County Hospital. We've got two doctors to talk to today.
Absolutely. Thank you, Coleman, for having us.
Well, you have done a really fine job, and I think you've even promoted this quite a bit on Facebook, because my wife was telling me last night who my guests were going to be.
Well, I just reached out to the correct contacts, and then they helped advertise. We are so honored to have our guest today. But before we get started, you were kind of asking me about Leadership Wilson. I am on the board for Leadership Wilson, and last time we were talking about our reverse draw. We have a reverse draw fundraiser every other year, and in our pandemic predicament, we have been preparing for different options if we do not have a live event. So we have not made an executive decision yet, but that is in the plan to make that soon. That event is next week. So we do appreciate all of our supporters just supporting us and buying tickets, regardless if the event is live or if it's going to be virtual. So I think that we will have a good time either way.
And you're not ready to tell us which it's going to be yet?
No, sir, I'm not.
That decision really hasn't for sure been made. You're leaning in one way, but you're not sure.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
All right. That's good enough. All right. We do have Dr. Adam Huggins with us this morning live in studio. And let me say good morning to you.
Good morning. Thank you so much for letting me be here.
All right. Associate Chief Medical Officer for Vanderbilt Wilson County Hospital. And I think this is the first time for you to be on
this show. Yes, sir, it is.
Just real quickly, a little bit about yourself.
Yes, sir. I am a board-certified OBGYN by training, and completed Vanderbilt's business school several years ago, and then have done more and more administrative work and became the Chief Medical Officer for Vanderbilt Wilson County in March of this year.
All right, and we have on the phone Dr. William Schaffner. Dr. Schaffner, are you there?
I'm right here, Coleman. Sure. Good to be with you.
Well, it is good to have you. Tracy?
Yes, and we are so honored to have Dr. Schaffner. He is a past president of the National Foundation for Infectious Diseases. He's also on the executive board of Infection Disease Society of America, and he currently teaches at Vanderbilt University. I'm sure that you have seen him all over the news. He's been on C-SPAN, so we are so honored to have him with us today.
Good to be with you, Tracy.
It's certainly nice of you to take time to be with us, too. We appreciate that. Now, as of July 5th, Tennessee had 51,431 confirmed cases, 2,871 hospitalized, 646 confirmed deaths. Can you tell us what Vanderbilt Wilson County Hospital has experienced?
Absolutely. I think, as most people know, we began seeing COVID patients as early as March of this year and kind of had an initial wave. I think as much of the rest of the country, outside of a few areas, we saw that wave begin to flatten out. And then now we've certainly begun to see more of an influx. And so we are starting to see more patients in the hospital and more people test positive within our community.
Right. As the number of cases are going up, as well as the number of residents being tested, Dr. Schaffner, can you help explain this data?
Sure. It's really a combination of two things, Coleman. First, we are testing more extensively. And as you test more, you'll find more people. But that's not the whole story. It's really quite clear that as we have opened up, we haven't always opened up carefully. Some people have opened up in a more, shall we say, carefree fashion. And there have been group gatherings at bars and other locations, people having holiday parties and barbecues and such, not wearing the masks. And that's led to more transmission of the virus. And as the virus continues to spread, and those kinds of casual behaviors will promote the spread of the virus, we'll see more cases. And down the road, some of those cases will wind up in the hospital, I'm afraid.
Well, what changes at Vanderbilt Wilson County Hospital have been made in preparation for an influx of COVID-19 positive patients?
That's a great question. As we have seen more patients test positive and more patients require hospitalization, we wanted to take measures to make sure that we are keeping not only our patients but also our staff and other providers as safe as possible. So one of the things that we have done is we have opened up an entire unit in the hospital that is dedicated solely to the care of COVID patients. And so we were able to place those patients on that unit, isolated and away from our other patients. And that way, the rest of the staff and the other hospital providers are able to remain distant, remain safe, so that other patients that are in the hospital can feel comfortable in their environment.
What should a person do if they've had close contact with a COVID positive patient? Now, both of you may want to respond to that one. Dr. Schaffner, why don't you go first here? What?
Well, if you've had contact with a COVID positive patient, call your healthcare provider. Don't go running to the office because you don't want to spread it to people in the waiting room and such. Call them and ask them what to do. They will either arrange for testing themselves or direct you to an assessment and testing facility so that you can get tested. And undoubtedly, if it's evaluated that you have a genuine exposure, you will be asked to quarantine yourself. Restrict your contact with other people. Stay at home until such time as the testing protocol and the quarantine has run, because you certainly don't want to spread it to other people inadvertently. Remember, you can actually be positive, shedding the virus, giving it to others, even though you don't feel unwell, even though you feel perfectly healthy. So that's the whole concept behind quarantine.
And we've been considering, I believe 14 days has kind of been the number that's been considered the length of time for quarantine. Is that that's still good? That the way we do it?
That's the way it is being done across the country still. And the reason we've chosen 14 days is that's the outside length of what we call the incubation period. If you're going to turn positive, you will turn positive within those 14 days, almost assuredly.
Okay, Dr. Huggins, anything you want to add to that so far here?
No, I would agree with that. And for members of the community here in Wilson County that are concerned and are looking to be tested, again, I completely agree with Dr. Schaffner that they should communicate with their provider rather than showing up at the office. And also, please be aware there are community resources such as the Department of Health that can offer testing and can even in some cases offer asymptomatic testing. So for people that don't feel like they're sick but are worried they may have it, they can go to those facilities and get tested.
All right, let's talk about the recommendations for wearing masks. And again, Dr. Schaffner, you can go first.
Well, the recommendations from the CDC, and there are certainly recommendations that I endorse, is yes, we should be wearing masks. When you leave the front door of your house every morning, put on that mask. And the reason for that is, once again, we'll come back to the fact that you can have no symptoms and still be positive with the virus. And so in order to protect other people, and we've learned as this has gone on that obviously the mask also protects you. So while you're protecting yourself, you're also protecting others. You get asked questions, I get asked questions very frequently. Well, if I'm only going out for a walk around the block, for example, with my wife, or I'm going on a jog and I'm not around others, may I take the mask off? Certainly, as long as you're not around others. After you've had your jog and you're walking back and you may be walking through a more populated area, please put the mask back on.
Dr. Huggins?
Again, I completely agree. I think there are still a lot of things about coronavirus that we are still learning and still figuring out. But one of the most basic things that we know is that wearing a mask unquestionably reduces the risk of spread. And as we have seen, as Dr. Schaffner referenced earlier, more and more people with large events not wearing masks, and now we're seeing a rise in cases. I think it's more important than ever that people follow that guideline and wear masks.
Well, since we're talking about masks, let me ask both of you this. We've seen a lot of the demonstrators, the protesters, and a lot of them did not have the mask on. We've seen some other gatherings where they didn't. What does that that do to you when you see that? I mean, is this really you want to get out there and put a mask on them almost, or how do you react when you see that, Dr. Schaffner?
Well, of course, from a purely public health point of view, from the point of view purely of wanting to reduce the transmission of this virus, I would wish everyone who goes to any large gathering, if you do go to a large gathering, please wear a mask and try to stay 6 feet from other people. You know, these large gatherings, whether they're political gatherings or these social demonstrations, people get very close to each other for prolonged periods of time, and they're exuberant, they're enthusiastic, and they're shouting and they're singing, etc. And all of that creates an environment for the spread of the virus. I'll grant you that many of these events are out of doors, and that helps reduce the risk. But close contact with many, many people at the present time, I'm afraid that puts you at risk. And if a large group of people get together anywhere in the United States today, statistically, the COVID virus will be at that gathering. You don't know it, but the virus will be there seeking a way to go from one person to another. Think carefully, please, about attending such large events.
You want to add to that, Dr. Huggins?
I would say, the wearing a mask and social distancing seems to have become somehow almost a political game than anything else. And I would remind people that the virus has no politics. It simply wants to infect people. So whether it's a pool party, a bar gathering, a political demonstration, or any other event, again, to echo Dr. Schaffner, we really urge people to try and maintain that 6 foot distance and wear a mask at all times. That's really the one thing that we can do to reduce the spread.
Right. You're listening to Coleman and Company. Vanderbilt Wilson County Hospital, of course, is with us, our advertiser, every Tuesday at this time, but with medical professionals the first and third Tuesdays each month. And again, with us today, Dr. William Schaffner, who's on the phone, professor of preventive medicine and infectious diseases with Vanderbilt University Medical Center. Dr. Adam Huggins, Associate Chief Medical Officer for Vanderbilt Wilson County Hospital, is here in studio along with Tracy Pope, and of course, Director of Community Relations. We're going to take a break and more coming up here on Coleman and Company FM 98.9.
And it's now 7:17. Let's see what's happening on the roadways. Want to thank our friends at Bates Ford, and they've got the low price tire guarantee on all tires every day up to 30 days after the sale. There'll be any competitor's pricing on the tires they sell. 1673 West Main. Now at traffic, here's Chuck.
Well, good morning. They've had a time moving this situation here on 65 northbound just past Metro Center. Hopefully that'll recover here in the next few minutes over the Cumberland River Bridge as we watch traffic build out here on 40 coming through Mount Juliet right now. Smith Springs Road at Bell Road was tied up just a few minutes ago on a non-injury accident. For that perfect getaway just outside of Gatlinburg, check out Cosby Creek Cabins. Log on today, CosbyCreekCabins.com. I'm Commander Chuck. You're on time traffic.
Renewal happens here at Lebanon Center for Rehabilitation and Healing. Lebanon Center for Rehabilitation and Healing has experienced new leadership and a new atmosphere. Same location in the heart of Lebanon, 731 Castle Heights Court on the Castle Heights campus. Lebanon Center for Rehabilitation and Healing is providing 5-star clinical outcomes to short-term and long-term care residents. Call 615-444-4319 for a tour and to experience the new culture. Renewal happens here at Lebanon Center for Rehabilitation and Healing.
This is Coach Mark Medley. Larry Thompson has served on the Wilson County School Board for 8 years and served as chairman for 6 years. During that time, the school system has experienced unprecedented growth and challenges. His record speaks for itself as the board continues to meet the demands presented them. His experience will be vital to the board as it continues to navigate through these uncharted waters. Please vote to re-elect Larry Tomlinson.
Paid for by the committee to elect Larry Tomlinson, Kathy Adams, treasurer.
Coleman and Company, thanks for joining us. Vanderbilt Wilson County Hospital, presenting our program, of course. And again, we have Dr. William Schaffner, Dr. Adam Huggins with us, along with Tracy Pope. Now, Vanderbilt Wilson County Hospital has visitor restrictions. Can you tell our listeners what to expect if they have an emergency room visit and are family members admitted?
Great question, and we've definitely tried to make our neighbors aware of this in Wilson County. So the hospital does have visitor restrictions. That, again, is for the safety not only of the patients but also of the staff working in the hospital. And you can think about it really in two different ways. What happens in the emergency room and what happens when you're actually in the hospital as a patient. So in the emergency room, while a patient is being evaluated to determine whether or not that patient needs to be put into the hospital, we ask visitors to wait in their cars unless the patient is a minor. So no visitors allowed in the emergency room unless the patient is a minor. If the patient requires to be admitted to the hospital, then we allow one visitor to accompany the patient in the hospital. The reason is that just while they're in the emergency room, we don't know the status of the patient, we don't know exactly what's going to happen, and we don't want to bring in additional people into the emergency room who could then either get infected themselves or possibly infect other people. So until we know whether or not a patient is going to be admitted to the hospital, we don't allow visitors, again, unless the patient's a minor.
Once they are admitted, then how is that one person can be there almost any time or any length?
Essentially, yes. Again, there are a few restrictions if the patient's in the ICU or other things like that. But if you're a general patient on the floor, you can have one visitor essentially 24/7. And the visitors check in through the general entrance at the emergency room. They get a visitor band. They themselves are screened. And that's how we allow them to be in the hospital.
That seems to be working well.
It seems to be working very well.
Yeah.
And visitors, of course, are required to wear masks the entire time they're in the hospital, just like all the staff are, just like the patients are.
Several months ago, we discussed the COVID-19 predictive model for Tennessee that the Vanderbilt team developed. And I think we'll address this to you, Dr. Schaffner. What does that look like now?
Well, actually, that model has been really quite predictive, I must say, and it still looks as though there will be continuing transmission throughout August. Of course, you don't have to be a fancy biostatistician to know that. All you have to do is look at the television and see how widely spread this virus is now across the country and how it's continuing to be spread. So I'm afraid we're in for a serious period of time ahead. We have not yet controlled this virus by any means, and the virus is not taking a summer holiday.
Well, let me ask: Do you feel possibly some of that we maybe have developed a lackadaisical approach that I haven't got it. I don't have any relatives that have it. Everything's been fine with me, and this has been blown out of proportion, and everything's okay. I'm not going to be as conscious about this as I was before. Is that a general attitude maybe that prevails?
I think there's a fair amount of that. Added with the beautiful weather that we've been having, sunshine, people like to get outside and enjoy themselves in groups. They've been sheltered at home. Now they have a bit of cabin fever and want to reestablish those social relationships. I understand all that. Unfortunately, the virus is still with us, as I said, and will continue to circulate. I think there are people who expected that during the stay-at-home lockdown that the virus really would go away. And I think some of that onus is on us. I think we didn't sufficiently prepare the population for the fact that once we open up, we're continuing to have to engage in the social distancing, the mask wearing, etc. And so the request that's coming now to maintain those interventions, if you will, are greeted with a little bit of surprise and, frankly, annoyance.
Your comments, Dr. Huggins.
I agree again. I think, people, again, with the cabin fever from having to stay inside, I think people became frustrated with that. And, there's a significant number of people that may be infected that may not have many symptoms or may not have severe symptoms. And I think that can also contribute to the sort of more cavalier attitude that this is maybe not a big deal or things like that. But you have to remember there are a lot of people that if they get infected will have, severe illness and may require hospitalization. And obviously some people even die from that. So I think it's really important that we take care of our neighbor and do the right things by continuing to follow the guidelines.
All right. There's been talk about an increased wave, the next increased wave, this sort of thing. Have we entered that? Are we going to? Talk about that, if you will, Dr. Schaffner.
Well, I think we're still in the second wave of the first wave, you might say. So that first wave never really completely died out while we were sheltering in place. And so it's continuing now. We're still getting those, to continue to use that metaphor, swells from that first wave. What most infectious disease doctors and public health people are concerned about is that once the cooler weather arrives and influenza returns, complicating things further, there is a concern that the COVID virus actually may spread even more widely along with flu. And then Dr. Huggins and his hospital and all the other hospitals will be struggling with a double-barreled winter virus season, influenza and COVID. And while I have the moment, I'll urge everyone to get their flu vaccine once it becomes available in September. That is something we can do to mitigate, to reduce that part of the equation.
All right, another thing, we're seeing a shift in the age of people being affected to the younger people seem to be more susceptible than maybe we thought. Why is this?
Well, we're just learning more, and the virus is spreading more widely. And it's many of those younger people who are having the barbecue parties and are going to the bars. And they're doing it, as I say, in a more carefree rather than careful manner. And so the virus is spreading in that age group also. They're not totally immune. They're not invulnerable. And if you infect enough people in that age group, some of them will get sick and need medical care.
Dr. Huggins?
Yeah, young people, myself included, when I was younger, sort of think of themselves as invincible. And I think the virus is showing otherwise. Clearly, young people can be infected and in some cases can get very sick.
All right. We are months into the pandemic. How are the treatments working?
Well, the treatments are better. First of all, we've just learned so much more about how this virus makes you sick. So doctors taking care of sick patients can anticipate some of the things that this virus might do and can try to prevent them. For example, we didn't know at the beginning that this virus could cause blood clotting problems. Now that we know that, we can test for it, anticipate it, and treat so that that doesn't happen. That's just one example. And then, of course, we now have some drugs that we know work from good clinical trials. This drug, remdesivir, and, of course, now the steroid that we've been using for 40 years for other things also looks as though it can reduce the amount of time that you spend in an intensive care unit and can improve survival. We anticipate that over the rest of the summer, results from other clinical trials that are ongoing around the world for therapies may well come in. So perhaps in the next couple of months, we'll learn even more how to treat this virus better and better.
All right, time is swiftly passing here, so let's move to the next thing in regard to a vaccine. We've heard a lot of talk about the possibility of having one, and in a few days, a few weeks, depending on who's doing the talking. But what are the updates that each of you have heard regarding a vaccine? And again, we will let you answer first, Dr. Schaffner.
Coleman, the last time we spoke, we said that it was in the offing and the clinical trials were underway. Today, I'll say it's in the offing and the clinical trials are underway. Don't want to rush them. They are moving ahead with all due speed, carefully, and we hope that some results will start to come in this fall.
Dr. Huggins?
I would echo that. Traditionally vaccines can take months or even years to develop, and the work that has been done by the groups that are involved is quite remarkable. They are moving very quickly and very safely, and I think many of us are cautiously optimistic that we will have a safe and effective vaccine soon, although I don't think anybody could really say when.
Right, and we've got a good question here to wind up with this morning because flu season will soon be upon us. How can one differentiate between flu symptoms and COVID symptoms?
Well, my short answer is not very easily because they can present in very similar ways. Of course, COVID has some interesting things. There are those blushes in the fingers and toes that can happen, the COVID toes and COVID fingers. And in COVID, you're much more likely to lose your sense of taste or smell. But in terms of how it affects your respiratory tract, your nose, your throat, down in your bronchial tubes and lungs, they look very similar. So your doctors will be doing an awful lot of flu testing and COVID testing to sort things out this coming season.
Okay, and you ditto again.
Yeah, no, because those two diseases in many ways overlap. To echo Dr. Schaffner, I think that's all the more important reason to get flu vaccines as much as possible this year so that we can try and help reduce that part of the equation as much as possible.
Well, Dr. Schaffner, thanks for being with us as well. We've come to the end of our time here, but you certainly offer us a lot of good information. We appreciate having you on with us again.
Thank you so much, and best wishes, Dr. Huggins. Keep doing a good job there.
All right. Well, Dr. Huggins, it's really nice to have you with us today as well. Welcome to Coleman and Company again. And Tracy, you always do a good job. Thank you for preparing and bringing all of this. I'm sure our listeners appreciate it.
Well, we have great resources. I'm just happy that we get to schedule them and let our community know what is happening. Speaking of resources, you can always go to VanderbiltWilsonCountyHospital.com. We have a COVID banner at the top of the page, and you can click on that. Our resources are constantly updated, so please continue to go to that banner. If you feel like you have symptoms, please call your healthcare provider, or we have resources on our website. You can call our hotline, or our current Vanderbilt Wilson County assessment site is the walk-in clinic, the Vanderbilt Walk-in Clinic in Mount Juliet on Belinda Parkway beside Jason's Deli.
All right. Well, that's it for part one. We hope you'll keep it here for more. FM 98.9.
And it's now 7:29. Let's see what's happening on the roadways. Thanks to Absolute Kubota and Rental Lamprey. Quality tractor implements including cutters, finish mowers, box blades, tillers, and more. 5-year gearbox warranty. Extremely durable and well-built. 1325 West Main. Now with traffic, here's Chuck.
Good morning. It's starting to really pick up now on 65 coming down through Madison. Sure, we've seen a couple of earlier wrecks out here, including that one at Smith Springs and Bell Road. Traffic's on the increase I-40 east through Kingston Springs right now. All that traffic flow coming out of Dixon County. Traffic's still looking pretty good right now for the most part out here on the major interstate routes. 2-bedroom house for sale now in Nashville at 1638 Dr. D.B. Todd Jr. Boulevard. Call Greg Sanford today at 615-300-0753. I'm Commander Chuck. You're on time traffic.
Welcome to Hearthside Senior Living, Lebanon's unique senior living community designed for seniors to age in place, all within a safe, comfortable, and Christian environment. Beautiful retirement homes designed for an independent lifestyle with maintenance-free living. Hearthside Senior Living also continues the excellent tradition of assisted living for those seniors who need additional services. Hearthside Senior Living, an independent retirement community and assisted living community, all on one campus in the heart of Lebanon. Call 615-443-1994 for a tour.
Hi, this is State Senator Mark Pody. Join hundreds of Tennesseans this Saturday at the Embassy Suites in Murfreesboro, Tennessee from 8:30 in the morning to 3 p.m. to hear from some of our U.S. Republican Senate candidates as well as speakers on our constitutional rights. This event is free thanks to our sponsors Lee Beedman Automotive and Dr. Ming Wang. Visit conservativescaucus.com for more information. See you there.
Paid for by Concerned Constitutional Conservatives, a PAC by Allison Shepard, Treasurer.
Today, hit or miss showers and storms are in the forecast, so you'll need to pack the umbrella. Temperatures today will top out in the low 90s. On Wednesday, rain showers are in the forecast, otherwise skies will be partly cloudy. Highs on Wednesday will reach the low 90s. Scattered showers are on the forecast on Thursday. This weather forecast is brought to you by Walker Auction and Realty. Professional auction and real estate services. Get top dollar for your home, land, or personal property. Log on to MikeWalkerAuctions.com. They know auctions. That's a look at your forecast. I'm meteorologist TJ Scott.
We welcome you to part two of Coleman and Company. You're in the Tuesday. Time to talk about Hearthside Senior Living. Sean Dozier is here. He's the executive director. And good morning.
Good morning. When I told Tyler that was a tough act to follow.
They had it all together this morning.
Well, I speak for myself. They're very very smart people, and Tracy did a good job of getting those two guests on the show.
Yeah.
Very good information.
I think so, too. And I'm not that smart either. She provides me with a question, so that helps.
Oh, does she? Maybe I should do that for our commercial.
Well, if you don't like the way I'm doing it, feel free to.
No, I like it.
Oh, well, we are kind of informal.
We are.
That's okay. Hearthside Senior Living, a retirement and assisted living community, 215 Castle Heights Avenue North. And Sean's been executive director for a while.
For about 2 years now, and I've enjoyed almost every second of it. It's been challenging the last couple of months, but that's for everybody. And whether you're dealing with kids in schools, which she has a lot more to deal with, or older folks in assisted livings or nursing homes, it's been a challenge. And we're still, I haven't looked at the threshold today for Wilson County, but I think we're still above the threshold. So we're still locked down and not allowing visitors in the building. We still do window visits and virtual tours, and that's going well, but can't wait to get back to the day where we can do some visits together.
Yeah, I know, and I think it's been a little bit of a downer when it seems like here in the last couple of weeks maybe we've been going backwards.
Yeah, we were all excited about opening up July 1st, and we had everything set up, ready to go. Had everything built out so our families could visit with our residents, but then we had to sort of pull back on that, and that's been disappointing.
Well, people can reach you at hearthsideseniorliving.com.
Hearthsideliving.com.
Hearthsideliving.com.
They can take a virtual tour of our independent living homes, which we have 30 independent living homes, and they can fly through the homes and see exactly what we have to offer, and that's always a good thing to do. Or they can stop by, and sometimes we, some of our residents down there don't mind guests coming in, so we have given tours and keep adding to that waiting list for those independent living homes. Those homes are very popular, and I'm excited about continuing to add to that waiting list. And then our assisted living, we took a little hit April and May. We didn't have as many admissions because people weren't out. But now people are starting to get out and about, and we're having several admissions this past week. So we're excited about that. We do have several other rooms available. So if you're interested in that, we don't have rooms available too often, Coleman.
That's right.
So this is a great time if you're interested in assisted living to go to our website and tap the link under assisted living, and they can see our prices, what that entails. It's very reasonable prices. It encompasses all one price. We don't try to nitpick and try to charge you for different things. So just check us out at hearthsideliving.com for the assisted living. And of course, if you want to are interested in the retirement community, you can click on the tab that says retirement community.
Well, that retirement community has got to be a nice place to be.
It really is. It really is.
Because they are, first of all, I think there's a sense of security there that you wouldn't have in just any place you were living. Plus, you do all the maintenance there, and you can come and go as you wish. You can get those $3 meals.
Yes, you're selling it for me, I tell you. We're very proud of that community, and I always say, the tradition of the assisted living has been there since 1994. It served a lot of people and it continues to serve a lot of people, and it continues to do a great job. But that senior living community, the retirement community we have, 65 or up, has really been a blessing to so many people. I talked to Margie Andrews yesterday. Her husband died 5 years ago yesterday, and she was saying to me, before Jim died, he said, "Where do you want to be?" She said, "I think I want to be at Hearthside Senior Living. I think I want to buy one of those houses down there." And he said, "I think that's a good choice." And she has not regretted it to this day. So it's been good for her, as a widow. We take care of the maintenance. We take care of really anything that she needs down there. If she needs some boxes moved or anything, we take care of it. So it's a blessing to a lot of people.
But really a wonderful community, too.
It's a great community. We do a lot of things. We haven't done anything lately, and I'm looking forward to getting back to be with those folks. Usually we take monthly day trips and do some things together. Hopefully in August we can sort of get back together and do some things.
Well, I guess it's time for a Hearthside Hello.
Judy Cox, her birthday's today, and
really?
She's a fellow Kiwanian, and I just wanted to, and she's a sponsor on the show on Friday, so I know she's one of your favorites. So Judy Cox, happy birthday.
And happy Hearthside Hello.
And happy Hearthside Hello, yes. Hearthside Hello.
That it?
That's it, Coleman.
Well, give Sean a ring if you need to, 615-443.
1994, the year we started.
All right.
1994.
And just remember, Hearthside Senior Living, when it's time for a helping hand.
Thank you very much.
See you next Tuesday.
Have a great week.
All right, you too. We are 22 before the hour. Dr. Donna Wright joins us today. Dr. Donna Wright is the Director of Schools for Wilson County and got a lot on her plate right now and probably a lot on her mind, and she's going to share some of that with us this morning. Good morning.
Good morning, Coleman.
You had a meeting last night.
Yes, we did.
I think I know you had some television coverage, and you pretty much outlined plans for the school year.
Well, and you have to go back a little bit. Thursday evening, we had our work session, and we more or less framed as far as what we were proposing based on the outcome not only of our parent and staff surveys, but also as far as what generated a lot of questions, which we invited those questions. We were live streaming Thursday evening, and we requested that parents, staff, even students, if there were questions that emerged that we didn't touch on or didn't address in depth as we were outlining our plan, to please submit them. We had different options that they could contact us, and so we could sort through those and create some themes as far as where the concerns, where there was still not clarity as far as what we were presenting based on parent request, and much of it was built off the survey results that we sent out.
So what is pretty much the bottom line as far as school starting and how you're planning to do it?
Well, and as I have shared last night and will continue to share, our intention is to start a traditional in-person with modifications, return to the classroom August the 3rd, which was already on the calendar as far as the start. And with that, as we continue to not only notify parents, that also keep them informed, because what they're not used to and will have to be, very vigilant as far as we communicate, everything can change within 24 hours. And that's something that really gives, heartburn. But we have to be that flexible and that nimble that if we're looking even a week out and we're seeing an uptick in active COVID cases, we push the week back. It might be August the 10th, but it will be monitored. We've got a set of metrics that we've created that not only working with the local health department, also the state, and looking at those active cases. So I think parents really understand, because we're going to try everything that we have within our frame of reference to make sure that not only do we mitigate, but also make an awareness that, this is something that we have to stay on top of. And particularly when you're looking at a population of 19,000 students and close to 2,000 staff, which is also your teachers and your other employees that support. So there's a lot of moving pieces, but that's our intent. 70% of those that respond to the surveys want to see their kids back in the classroom, which, again, we want our kids in the classroom, because by the time we return, Coleman, we've been out of school for nearly 6 months. Mm-hmm. And there's a real concern, but there's also an understanding that there's going to be a learning loss, particularly with our younger children, and so we really need to get them back.
So what's going to be different?
Well, different as far as that, we have to really, as far as be more restrictive as far as how there's movement, as far as how a classroom looks, as far as the cleaning, the sanitation, which is going to be daily, including cleaning desks. I mean, at the protocols that we have in place, in which some of our listening audience, as far as that night, said that, we had too many protocols in place, but we have to. The day is different.
Okay, you're going to take everybody's temperatures.
Everyone, staff and students will get a daily temperature check coming into the buildings.
Well, that'd be one of those little...
instant, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, aim it at the forehead, and
okay.
And it's something, we already have 500 instant thermometers in place, ready to open school. And again, that's to make, we've got 22 campuses that we're going to be monitoring. Masks, that becomes a really hot issue. What we are going to require for those that depend on transportation on our buses, which that is an enclosed, contained area, that if you want to ride the bus, if you want your children to ride the bus, you will wear a mask, and you will also have an assigned seat, because that becomes part of that tracking mechanism, that if we have an episode or an event, we can more or less go back and determine.
What about in the classroom? Will masks be required in the classroom?
We're going to strongly require a mask in the classroom. And the thing that, again, you've got the split as far as particularly with younger children. And the reason I bring that up is simply that you're looking at a literacy component, particularly through kindergarten through second grade, and with a real emphasis on phonemic awareness, where you have to literally look to see how the mouth, the tongue's placed as you go through that learning early literacy process. So we have masks that are going to be made as far as for our young children that have that clear piece where the teacher can see the mouth, but the teachers will also have that clear mask. So the thing is, and again, I understand the concern both sides. We are strongly encouraging wearing masks, but we also understand as far as that we also have some underlying health issues with those that cannot wear the mask. Excuse me. And so we're also, as far as requiring teachers that if they're going to be in a, whether it's small groups, whether it's looking at working with particularly in any group of students where there's close proximity, that they're going to wear a mask within, if they're going to be within 6 feet of any student. So there's a lot of modifications, a lot of changes. It's going to be different than what we've experienced before, but we have to.
Is there going to be much difference between K and 12 as far as the requirements go?
As far as the nature of the classroom and the movement of students.
Yeah, I mean,
yes.
I mean, if you're whether you're in kindergarten or in the 12th grade, you're going to wear a mask. You're going to, if you ride the bus, you're going to have. It's pretty much going to be the same for everybody.
It's pretty much the same, and the thing that even if as far as the debate, as far as even in the cafeteria, whether you're elementary, whether you're looking at a high school. There was discussion because, some districts are saying that, you go to the cafeteria, get your food, take it back to the classroom. Well, that doesn't really accomplish anything. And particularly for younger children, you're making an issue. What we are doing as far as expanding that lunch time with whether it's an elementary setting or a high school setting, where there is a longer period as far as that movement of students, which you'll have a smaller number, whether it's in the cafeteria, but even in our high schools, we have large cafeteria seating, but we also have large commons areas.
Yeah.
So we can open it up and make sure that we have students, but we're also going to have quadrants set up that we don't have mixture or movement that will be monitored, because we have to contain where we know students are at any given time, that if we have an event, that we can go back and do that tracking to determine.
Well, one other thing, we'll go to a break. What about the restroom situation? You surely have had to address that in some way.
Well, again, it goes back to that sanitation as far as that, again, you're talking about soap. We already know that, the basic hygiene appears to be common sense, but it's not. And so there's going to be that ritual as far as in an enforcement that we not only are going to monitor without compromising anyone, but we are going to make sure that we really emphasize that any exchange that is hand sanitizer, soap, washing hands, whether it's in the classroom, whether it's in the restroom, entering, exiting a cafeteria, wherever that we can make sure that there's the opportunity that we can contaminate. We're also going to make sure we sanitize.
Dr. Donna Wright is with us, Director of Schools. We'll talk more after this break here on Coleman & Company, FM 98.9.
And it's now 7:47. Let's see what's happening on the roadways. Thanks to Bates Ford, lifetime brake pad guarantee. With the purchase of a brake service, replacement brake pads will be provided at no cost for as long as the customer owns the vehicle. Bates Ford, 1673 West Main. Now at traffic, here's Chuck.
Good morning. As they wrap up that crash there on Smith Springs Road at Bell Road, still some traffic flow coming down through Mount Juliet right now out of Wilson County. Here on I-40 westbound headed towards Hermitage. We've been in pretty good shape for the most part out here the last hour as far as really bad interstate accidents. For that perfect getaway just outside of Gatlinburg, check out Cosby Creek Cabins. Log on today, CosbyCreekCabins.com. I'm Commander Chuck with your on-time traffic.
Vanderbilt Health is honored to announce the newest addition to our family of hospitals, Vanderbilt Wilson County Hospital in Lebanon. This hospital will provide care for Wilson County residents with the goal of improving the health and well-being of our newest community. Hospitals are for healing, new life, and recovery. They're places of innovation and learning. At the end of the day, hospitals are all about one thing: community. thank you for welcoming us into yours. Let's do great things together.
71 degrees all the way.
73 degrees, please.
So what's your perfect degree of comfort? We'll help you find it with professional Rheem HVAC service that'll keep your home comfy year-round, save on energy costs, and may qualify for utility rebates and tax credits. So enjoy a new degree of comfort.
72 degrees, and I'm good to go.
Financing available through TVA's Energy Right program and your local power company. Call Randy's Heat and Air 237-3604.
Coleman and Company, thanks for joining us. Dr. Donna right here. We've got a lot of ground to plow, so to speak. There's so much that information we'd like to get disseminated here, and we've got about 12 minutes. So what was the board meeting? I didn't, I guess you can watch this. I didn't even think about it.
We do live streaming now,
else.
yes.
Yeah.
And I mean, individuals can even contact us. I mean, I get text messages during the meeting as far as you didn't address this and you need to.
Did you have a harmonious meeting last night?
Yeah, for the most part, because this is serious business. This is something that not only impacts the school community, but this is, as I shared last night, we know the importance of why we need to get schools in place. Even beyond our students need us. But as we also know, we are one of the most important economic drivers in the county. I know some people take offense, particularly educators, that we are the largest child care provider. But it is what it is. And parents depend on us to know that their kids are safe, secure, and learning so they can go to work.
Right.
And that's something that's also is on our minds every day.
Well, barring something terribly unforeseen here, I did look at the calendar. August 1st is on a Saturday. August 3rd is on a Monday. Monday, August 3rd, you plan to be in the school business again.
As best we can with, again, we're what I call a heat metrics as far as watching, monitoring, and part of the protocols that we'll have in place that once we get, and our teachers are in training right now, that we have the ability and to go into a remote setting depending on what the activity is as far as active cases. We will have the ability that we can monitor even if it's just at the school level, where we would have been so quick to shut the entire district down that we can look as far as and activate if it's a singular school. But if we're seeing as far as active cases around the district, then the idea that we go into a remote setting and the protocols that are in place as far as how we disseminate education at that point, or instruction rather. And so there's a lot of work going on right now with teacher training, making sure, because when you move into that virtual setting, Coleman, instruction changes. And we certainly learned a lot last spring, even though we were not prepared as many other districts because we didn't have an opportunity to bring devices home or anything else. We went from a tornado to a pandemic, and then we didn't have that. But lessons learned, much of it being that teachers feel that they need more instruction as far as how to transmit instruction from a remote setting to make sure that you can monitor what's taking place either at home or wherever that student might be. We've also looked at how to address one of the big gaps, and I think I've talked about this on here before. Not everyone has access to high-speed internet, right. And much of the reliability is on a smartphone, which is not going to be able to stream live video for instruction, those kind of things. And we did an experiment at Watertown Middle School as far as what happens if we create a large hotspot that's emanating from the school, and anyone that's in the parking lot, parents, students, community, can use that hotspot, which again, we've got a lot of safety features built in there as far as filters and other things. But the thing is, it was a huge success. We had families that were coming to the parking lot of Watertown Middle School so they could access the internet, and students had the opportunity that whatever they needed to do as far as what was being provided by teachers, it worked. So every campus, and we just learned this last Friday that we have the capabilities, every campus will have that hotspot capability that will be open in the evening for families to come in and use that internet access. And again, I think I also shared this before. Well, how do you know that everyone's doing the right thing? Well, you're going to be in a very public place. As far as we're not going to monitor each car, but you're going to be in a very public place that to use that internet access. But that right there is a huge piece as far as that being able to provide access.
What about buses and bus protocol and this sort of thing?
Well, and again,
you did mention that everybody would have an assigned seat,
seat,
but I think that's about all we said.
And a mask will be required
yes,
if you're going to ride on a bus. We've had a little pushback from parents that they do not want their children to ride the bus, but I have to remind parents, it's not a requirement that we provide transportation, but we know the need. There's over 10,000 of our students that depend on transportation.
So that's over half.
Yes, it's over half. And when you look at it, you're talking about a very confined space. We're talking about sanitizing buses before students get on, sanitizing buses after they get it off. We've got these electrostatic guns that you see in many hospitals that spray large areas, wipe down. But we also have to make sure we protect the bus driver as well. As you commented earlier, that we're not seeing as a high rate of increase as far as young people, but that older population, as far as adults, we're seeing that increase. So parents are concerned that, everything from, I was told last night, that's claustrophobic. My child is not going to be comfortable wearing a mask. We understand that. Your other option is that you provide your own transportation. And that sounds harsh, but we have to make sure that when we know we're in that containment, that we do everything that we can as a precaution.
Well, most people seem, the teachers, bus drivers, the custodial people, the cooks, everybody buying into this as far as you know. I mean, everybody, as much as reasonably possible, on the same page.
As reasonably possible. I mean, there's I don't want to say it's unanimous, but there's agreement that we need to be back in school. We need to get back into the routine. Students need to be in the classroom. But there's also that hesitancy because there's so much. No one's navigated this before. No one.
Right.
And so there's not even models that we can look at. When we look at some of the attempts by the colleges and universities to even go into a virtual setting where students were sent home and you will access your professor remotely and with the use of technology, it was an epic failure. I mean, and they'll all admit that. Part of it being because professors weren't trained and prepared, but also there has to be a motivated student on the other side that, do I want to engage? They won't know if I'm there or not. So there's a whole different dynamic. And we understand that because 10% of our population are opting for a virtual learning session. We're doing a semester at a time. It's open from kindergarten through senior and high school. And so 10%, which, it's roughly 2,000 students will enter on August the 3rd, but they'll enter in a virtual setting. So we did that simply because we have parents that are still not confident or comfortable, and we understand.
And that's strictly an option. I mean, that's an anybody option. Can do that. It can opt out for virtual education. All right. Well, what about sports? And especially football is right around the corner, we would say, if things go as normal.
And if anyone's been keeping up with that, we have to fall under as far as not only the guidance of TSSAA, but even the governor has weighed in on this as well. And everyone was so hopeful that we would move and transition into particularly what we refer to as the fall sports. Football being one that overshadows really much of everything else. You have girls soccer. You've got particularly even some of the traveling ball that's taking place right now. And so where we were hopeful that we were not only going to get into as far as the strength and conditioning, but also getting into as far as that early contact, as far as practice, that's on hold right now. What we can do as far as conditioning can take place with football. But there's not going to be any contact until the end of the month.
So is it really up in the air as to whether we'll even play football?
Yes, I guess so, because again, we're dependent on what the guidance that we get from TSSAA. But the thing is, like I shared with some parents, and I know that some parents thought I was pretty cavalier as far as that, I couldn't give them something firm. I know the importance of sports for youngsters. I know. And for many kids, it's the only reason they come to school.
Yeah.
I hate to say it, but that's true. But it tells you something about what that builds in young people. And so we don't know, because we can't understand as far as the nature of COVID, that when we got a little comfortable because we saw the decline, we now are seeing an uptick. So everything's going to be dependent on how people behave and monitor as far as their own behavior as far as in large groups, because we have to lessen the risk.
We got a minute and a half, and one other thing I'll mention quickly here: the 2 schools that were destroyed by the tornado. You pretty much got a contingency plan there that everybody's it's gonna be okay.
As best as we can, and one thing we're thankful for is that we do have the new high school that opens up as well on August the 3rd. 7th and 8th graders from West Wilson will be moving into Mount Juliet High School campus. And then 7th and 8th graders from the Mount Juliet Middle School will move into the Green Hill campus. So that helped us empty Mount Juliet Middle School temporarily, other than their 6th graders, which will be a K-6. And so we have a plan, but again, it's one of those things that we're going to be moving a number of students, but we also have sort of the protocols for that as well. And we're keeping the middle school students that are going to be distanced from the high school students, so we have that. And hopeful that as we move forward, particularly with replacing West Wilson Middle and Stoner Creek, you're talking about estimated at an $85 million project that's covered, thank goodness, by insurance.
All right. Well, our time is up. I'll have to say this. I don't envy you and your responsibility, but we certainly wish you well and hope you have the best school year possible under the conditions.
Well, thank you. And I just, I hope that everyone will be patient with us, because it's so fluid. And I know that word is being overused, but that's simply the world that we're in right now. And we look at it day by day.
Well, that's it for Tuesday. Hope you'll join us tomorrow for the Wednesday edition of Coleman & Company. Till then, I wish you a terrific day.